Hello and welcome back to the What Life. Guys, just going to be honest with you, this is a race from last week. This happened a week ago, the 11th of January. It's now the 18th. But I will have to admit that this was a race that I kind of said to Erik that I wanted to do. Erik then picked the route and it went horribly wrong for me. I think it also went a little bit wrong for Erik, but not quite as bad as it did for me. And I'm not one to shy away from things going wrong. So, you got to take your licks when they happen. So I said to Erik I was going to put them out. You can see here that there's a little chart on kind of how my performance has been going the last 3 or 4 weeks. And it's been a bit of a step back. I got sick, I got bronchitis, and I'm just coming back from that. I've been feeling a lot better, but obviously it still has a bit of a physiological impact on me. In terms of breathing, I just don't feel like my sharp end fitness is there at the moment, and I'm also struggling with a bit of strength. So Erik got to pick this race, which was probably why we ended up doing one of the Tour de Zwift routes. This is the Muckle Yin, and it's a double looper. So it's 50k. Erik was like, right. I managed to pip him at the post on our last race, which was a Z Racing monthly event. He was like, right, he wasn't having any of it. He was like, let's do a long one. Let's throw some hills in there. And so he chose this event. He was like, let's try and give this a crack. I knew it wasn't going to work out well for me, but I'm not one to shy away from the fray. To top things off, we also had Freddy Ovett. Freddy, who's a Pro Tour, I think he's a Pro Tour rider. Do forgive my ignorance. I am trying to get myself as clued up as possible. But he's a very good rider, professional of some description and popular on social media. So it was always going to be a hot and fast race. But this is the thing. So we've got a Tour de Zwift with tons of people in. We've got a long route with a load of climbing in. And then we got Freddy, who's leading the charge and definitely wasn't, gonna let people drop him. So it was always going to be a recipe for disaster. So just to recap, I am feeling good, but it has been a step back for the start of January, where I've lost a little bit, and hopefully you saw that on my stats. So I've got to rebuild a little bit. So what am I going to do to rebuild? I'm still taking part in the Flat is Fast series. I'm finding it really hard. I've actually put down some of my best numbers doing it, but I haven't had any punch. So what does that mean? It kind of means that on my average watts, I've managed to hold like 3.9 watts for the 30 minutes of the race, which is a step up for me, but I haven't had any punch whatsoever. So like my normalized power is still, they are kind of a little step backwards, and I'm getting absolutely dusted when it comes to the finishes of these Flat and Fast races. Like absolutely dusted. I got nothing left, which I have actually noticed. You do the primetime events on a Flats Fast race, you might notice that a lot of people lead into that finish nice and early, so they go like 2k out, sometimes even longer. And the pace really picks up. So by the time it comes to the sprint, in inverted commas, not many people have the legs for it. And when I say not many people, obviously the guys at the front do their thing and they kind of charge for the line and putting in sprints still. Myself, I am struggling. I actually recorded my one from this week, but the recording ran out halfway through, so I haven't bothered sharing it. But this is me taking my licks from Erik, and he's actually shared this video on his channel. So if you want to see the full thing and Erik's full ride, unfortunately, I don't make it over the Sker. Like I was saying, a little struggle with injury, illness, and my legs just don't feel like they have the juice. Also, being a Tour de Zwift, it's just mixed categories. It's just, big riders doing, you are categorized by distance rather than ability. So I think there were a ton of riders that just far exceed my ability, and I was trying to hold this front group, which ultimately kind of led to my demise. So that was the plan, was, hold the front group. I find these Tour de Zwifts quite frustrating because trying to figure out where Erik is really hard, because obviously everyone's wearing the same kit. I did know that he's on a Tron bike, and his Tron bike is, I don't know how you do this in Zwift, but sometimes on a Tron bike you can have like a blue bike with purple wheels. If anyone knows how to change the color of the wheels relative to the bike, please do let me know, because I'd love to know how to do that. Erik, hit me up. So this was it. I knew that basically the battle was going to be to try and stay with this front group. Everyone was moving quite fast. I was just about holding on, but my heart rate is doing what it's meant to do. So this is why I'm starting to feel a bit better, or at the time I was feeling a bit better. We are a week on now, and I feel like I've come out the other side of being ill. I just having to build back up that kind of sharp end fitness. So to do that, I'm trying to throw in a little bit more zone 2 training, and then mixing that up obviously with a little bit of racing, the odd workout. But also I have kind of reverted back to doing zone 2 at a lower cadence with a just higher watt output. So it's just like 45 to 55 RPM, just cranking out watts. I know that you guys tell me off for doing that, but I actually just quite enjoy it more than anything, more so than just doing a normal zone 2 ride. I want to get some neuromuscular benefit from it, because I still consider myself, not proficient at the actual pedal stroke and cycling, and I feel like I've still got ways to go. But I am, the thing I've noticed is that as I am nearing that 4 watts per kg mark, obviously it is getting harder and harder to keep the improvements coming. But now I'm feeling fit and healthy again. I'm hoping that in the next few weeks, especially when the Z Racing monthly events change at the end of January, I'm hoping that's going to be, I find these flat races just like, they are so hard because it's big groups, 200-300 riders, everyone moving really quickly, and then there's this kick towards the end. I haven't found them hugely engaging, but at the same time, like, I'm kind of hating them, kind of not hating them. They just don't make necessarily for an interesting race, because you can't really you can't break away from a big 300 person, 200 person group. But I'm going to do a smaller group and see how I fare in that. So this is the point of the race where I'm still holding the front group, which is I am happy with. Like, numbers are good, and we're going up the Sker, and I've basically have to do everything I can to try and hold on to this front group. This was the point where I kind of realized that it's probably going to be too much for me. I'm just not quite, for this race, I just wasn't quite able to like hit the numbers that I've hit previously and be able to kind of carry on. So it just felt way more draining, and that's basically the sentiment that it's been for like the last week or so, is anything I do has drained me way more. I've had that neuromuscular fatigue where my legs are just sore whilst doing it and just didn't feel like they had any power left in them. And that's kind of hard to not necessarily describe, but it's kind of a hard thing to comprehend, because you're like, why is it, you don't really know why it's happening. You just know that you've been ill and you were recovering, and ultimately you just need a bit more time to kind of relax. Anyway, as we're going up the Sker, I am just ahead of Erik at this point, but this is where there he is. That's Erik on my right there with the purple wheels and the blue Tron bike. I see Erik dust me off on this hill. I try and put a little bit of a kick in to stay with him. He's moving nicely. I'll give you the full rundown on how things go in a second, but I was just trying to hold him. Obviously, my watts kick up way too high. My heart rate hits 174. Like, I am working way too hard. And that's kind of like, that was what did it. Seeing Erik like fly past me, kind of, it really broke my spirit on this, especially knowing that this was meant to be 2 laps of the Muckle Yin. And the Muckle Yin's got, a fairly reasonable amount of climbing each time you do it. I can't remember what the actual it's 290 meters per loop, so just under 600 meters for the whole race was going to be way too much for me. So I had kind of presumed, my big mistake was presuming that Erik had managed to stay with that front group. I kind of thought that he'd moved off and managed to hold that front group. And then if he was holding that front group, I would have been completely destroyed and I wouldn't have had a chance over the 50k. As it turns out, he did fall off just slightly. Obviously he's destroyed me in this race, but he fell off the front group just slightly and ended up in a kind of chase pack. So ultimately, if I'd kept riding, if I tried to hold a group, I would have had a smidge of a chance, not half a chance, a smidge of a chance of riding up. If we got a big enough group, might have been able to ride up to him, but it wasn't going to be my day. I'd fallen off completely. I have regrouped, guys. I've got a plan. I'm looking for big numbers this year. I'm looking for kind of big improvements, but lo and behold, for this ride, that's me done. I did one lap of the Makul Yin. I just finished this lap off nice and easy, and I'm not going to bother you with the rest. This is me taking my licks from Erik. Well done, dude. Hopefully we will race again soon. And guys, hopefully I will catch you in a Z racing event soon.